100 Days of Gratitude, day 37. Today I am grateful for having no consumer debt. In this video I want to talk about debt, the types of debt, the good, the bad, the kind of cautions, the considerations around it because of what has already happened and may continue, what's coming down the pipeline, and why you need to understand different types of debt and be really careful in this environment of, if you have debt and if you're considering taking on debt. So I said, I'm grateful to have no consumer debt. The two types of debt that I have, I guess one could be considered a consumer type of debt, which is a mortgage. I think a lot of people have that. And with the increase in interest rates, I've got about a year and a half left on a fixed rate that was established at those really low rates. Obviously, over the last very short time period, they have gone up, incredibly large amount in the relative short amount of time. So I personally believe that is going to continue. So, or at least, will continue more. They're kind of like slowing, how much they're increasing, but it still is increasing. And I think they're going to keep increasing and then hold. It's definitely going to cause some pain. It's definitely going to cause a recession, which is what they say they want. So be mindful of any type of debt. Now, mortgages, at least here in Canada, we get 5-year terms. We can be locked in for a fixed, for a variable. I know a lot of people who are struggling with the variable rate because it's been going up as interest rate has been going up. There's a lot of people that are locked in, maybe like myself. They've got a few months, a year, 2 years, 3 years left at some really desirable rates. And then what happens, right, when they have to renegotiate at a much higher interest rate? So currently I'm working really hard to pay off as much of my mortgage as I can. Now, there's no way I'm going to be able to do it in a month and a half or a year and a half. So there will still be a sizable chunk left. That the ultimate reality is I'll end up paying quite a bit more in interest payments. Now, as it stands now, as it looks now, I'll be able to do it, and I'm almost like preemptively, taking on that larger amount that I'm going to pay at the end of that 5-year term, considering that it doesn't go that much higher. If it doubles from where we are now, then, I'll be in trouble just like everybody else, but if it just kind of inches its way forward and, holds, let's say at 5%, I'm already kind of prepared for that, and I'm paying it down as if I were paying at that higher rate. The benefit now is that all that extra I'm paying in advance is going down to the principal. Now, there is a possibility that, they go too far, they hit a recession, they go, we got to start lowering rates, and they bring it back down. That is one theory out there that, the governments themselves cannot sustain high levels of interest rates. And so that is what will break the system. That is what will cause the central banks to lower their interest rates. That's a possibility. And if that happens, we'll have other problems. But, I won't feel any regret having paid a little extra down. It's kind of just insurance. It's a just in case. It's like, yeah, it could go that way, but I'm in the camp that I think they're going to continue to raise them and they're going to hold them there. And at some point, longer term, we will get that real stress, that real strain, possibly a collapse. I think the biggest threat to our kind of culture, society, civilization, Western civilization is a financial crisis, some sort of banking collapse, currency, continued devaluation switch. I mean, that's on the horizon. When we went into 2020 and we had the pandemic, I mean, it was insane to say the least. Like, we were suddenly thrust into a scenario that most of us never could have even imagined in our wildest dreams, right? What we're living through was, the objects of, dystopian sci-fi movies, and like, whoa, we're living it. And and as we entered into that, I said, this is the decade, like this whole decade, my sense is going to be tumultuous. And it's not because of, more pandemics and, viruses and, these types of things unfolding. That was the first kind of shockwave. We're in a bit of a breather. I mean, yes, I know there's a war going on in Ukraine and there's all kinds of like turmoil, but by and large, compared to what we experienced and compared to what I think is coming at some point, some other sort of, crisis, I'm grateful for the breather, to be honest. And I'm using that time to kind of proactively, continue to get my house in order in that regard. And debt is one of those areas. So two types of debt I have. I have the mortgage. I've just outlined my strategy that I have there. And then the second one I have is with a business. And now business debt is what I would describe as, smart debt, good debt. And that is when you can borrow money. And if you can earn a rate of return higher than the interest rate, you're golden, right? Like, and it takes an intelligent person to kind of really think this through, plan it out, and if you can do it, you should be doing it all day long, right? Like, if you can borrow money at 5% but make 7%, you split the difference and you take 2% return, right? Like, there's a ton of people that have utilized debt intelligently, through investing, through business. But the key, the kicker, is you have to have a plan that you're utilizing that money that you've borrowed, at a lower rate to earn revenue at a higher rate, and you just take the difference. So even if it's 0.5%, right, 0.25%, 2%, whatever that is, if you've got a plan to do that, you do it all day long. It's how many businesses generate money, and it's how a lot of individuals have become wealthy, by utilizing debt. And they've done it over the last several years in low interest rate environments, 0% in some cases. There's no cost to borrowing the money. So, give me all I can kind of thing. But the risk is, of course, things can change. So having a contingency plan of like, okay, if that changes, I pay it off, get rid of it and move on. A not so good debt is consumer debt. And that's where I started. I'm grateful to not have consumer debt. I do have my mortgage, obviously, which is something I'm aware of. And in a sense is a consumer debt, but it's something, just a part of our society, our culture. It's fundamental to life. I've chosen to live somewhere, buy a home. I certainly not in the, over the last couple decades, people get swept up in like, oh, just buy a house, the value only goes up forever. Yeah, until it doesn't, right? We could actually see a period that most of us have never seen before, where the value could be going down, right? Where having a house and all these rental properties and actually becomes a liability because people can't pay for it. They can't finance it based upon the higher interest rates. So personal debt is what I'm speaking to, more about, borrowing money for your lifestyle, right? Oh, take a vacation, get that truck. For some people, honestly, I mean, this is really sad. Like they're using credit cards for their basic everyday needs, right? To get groceries. Like that is not a good place to be in. That's very dangerous. Again, especially in rising interest rates environment, but even just with the amount that a credit card will charge you on interest. Some people have student loans. I mean, that's the only debt that cannot be forgiven. yeah, so be mindful about debt, and most especially about personal debt, like things that you want, just to kind of maintain or elevate your lifestyle. If you're borrowing, I think that's already pretty clear that a lot of people got away with it when interest rates were low, but now as that creeps up, the cost of doing that is becoming a real challenge. And I'm very fortunate in a position. I don't have debt. I've never taken on debt for just, I want this, personal decisions. I've only ever, done something, invested in something, bought something if I've had the cash to do it myself. For that very, very reason. I don't want to be in debt. I don't want to be beholden to, pay later for something that I just wanted in this moment. And if I don't have the means to do it in that moment, I don't do it. That's just always been my kind of personal philosophy. So anyways, there's just some thoughts about debt. The difference between personal, which I think is a major liability. I don't think it's smart to take on, debt just to maintain one's lifestyle, unless you're doing it within a business context where you can invest it in something that's going to provide you a return greater than the money that you're paying to through interest. And then of course, with those that have mortgages, I'm sure you're already thinking about this, like what happens when it comes time to renew, and where are interest rates going? I think a lot of us that have that kind of a little bit of a leeway until that moment comes, like where's the market going? Just kind of sitting back. I know people that have locked in, previously seeing the rate increase. They were originally on a variable, and then they're like, well, okay, with these increases coming, let's just lock in here. At least we're good for the next 5 years. But for those that it's coming up, very interesting. What do you think? Are they going to increase? Do you think they'll stay the same? Do you think, there's going to be a pivot? That's the terminology that a lot of people are using. It's like, oh no, the Fed can't keep raising interest rates. They're going to pivot. I don't know. They keep saying that they're going to continue to increase. They're going to continue to hold. They're probably going to cause a recession. I think we'll see a little bit of pain for a short to medium extended period of time before they actually do pivot and flip and begin to, drop them down or print more money or whatever it is. I think we've got another potential crisis ahead of us, and I think people that are over leveraged with debt are going to be in a very, very vulnerable position. I was listening to a talk the other day that somebody says, when they want to institute a major societal change like the murmurings of the Great Reset, all that stuff, it takes at least 2 major crises, like to destabilize the society, to really shake things up. And now with everything that's coming out, like we knew it, we were calling it out. It's like, this makes no sense. They're either incredibly stupid or it's, malevolent. It's intentional. And you look at the lockdown files that the Telegraph is putting out. I mean, you just look at the narrative. It's just so freaking obvious. That unfortunately, for some of the actors, it's been the latter, right? There was a lot of well-intentioned people, that I'm not blaming, that I'm not saying are at all part of the conspiracy, that were, push that kind of mentality and agenda forward. But there's some bad actors for sure. There is a societal shift, and even the push for this shift, right? Even if it is some grand conspiracy to bring about change, I think a lot of those people actually do, have, good intentions, in the sense they think they're doing what they think is right? Like if climate change is this much of a catastrophe, this much of a urgency, or there's some sort of, financial collapse on the horizon, they feel that they are, doing good to social engineer to move us through this. And that obviously can be perceived as negative, the consequences of the little person getting squeezed within those decisions. So, positioning oneself as best as one can with, little to no debt as possible. And freedom, I think, will come and just like we experienced with the pandemic. Some people, like, all of our freedoms were challenged, but some people had a little bit more freedom, as myself as a good example, right? Being self-employed as a business owner, I didn't have an employer. I didn't have someone breathing down my neck other than the government and AHS. I had my own levels, but at least not another level below that was like, okay, do this or you're fired. Yeah, I think being in a financially healthy position with little to no debt, being able to service any sort of interest payments that you can, and having some savings. I know that all sounds like a tall order, but that will put you in the best position moving forward, because I think, again, another destabilizing event, at the same level that we just experienced with COVID, where we go like, whoa, this is really intense and messed up. I think at some point through this decade is coming. I'm grateful for the breather. I'm grateful that I have no personal consumer debt. I'm grateful that I have a plan to kind of, do what I can to manage the debt that I do have, and just get ready, get prepared. Again, whether that is war, whether that is an energy crisis, or whether that is a total financial collapse, I think it's coming in terms of another significant destabilizing event that will then be used as that second push to change the social landscape, right? Everything, the Great Reset, everything that they're talking about, they want to bring in, which you and I can see as this dystopia nightmare that they see as like, the way forward, this great opportunity. And again, I'm not saying it will be manufactured. It could be.